And away we go. It is the nightcap brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Go to the website. They will deliver right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or head down to Kentucky, go to Pump It Up, and save yourself 15% off the second best fried chicken, the second best chicken sandwich, the second best gluten-free option. They're one of the best places to eat in the city of Cincinnati, and that is now 3 years running. So go see our friends. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15%. Hi, Aaron.
Yo,
What up?
just missed the weather from yesterday already.
Did you see our conversation with
Logan Wilson?
dang it, Logan Wilson, yeah. When I asked him, like, did you really think that it was going to be like that Monday every day? And he was like, man, I thought it was, but it's not. This is cold. I don't like this.
It's a little chilly.
He was hilarious. Like he's a fast favorite. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was nothing but smiles. So you can tell that he's enjoying his time here already.
Yeah. So looking forward to getting to know Logan a little better. That was a good one. Joe Royer was awesome. Tyson Vite was awesome. You want to do a little, I mean, you watched all three of them. You want to do a little talking about talking?
I didn't take notes on it, but
it's okay.
Sure.
Just we can do a quick talking about
we can run through it real quick. With
you're choppy right now.
He's clearly still acclimating himself to. I was moving screens. This computer's not awesome, but he seemed that he's still acclimating himself to the culture and to the coaches, to the players. Still trying to figure out what he has, what he needs, where he wants people. Talked a little bit about why he decided to take the safety spot over the linebacker spot, which kind of makes sense. Just in that was the spot that was open. Didn't really want to play the shuffle game. Certainly didn't want to necessarily rock the boat when there was enough change going on already. As I
think
don't think.
I was just gonna say, I think also part of it too is like he is the person that understands this defense better than anybody, and the biggest change in this defense is having three safeties. So I think it kind of makes sense for him to kind of oversee the safeties. I wouldn't be shocked if, a year or two down the road, like, we saw Denbrock as a quarterback coach for a year, and then he moved back to tight ends where that was his natural. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a short-term fix for him running the safeties right now, but maybe he ends up liking it and stays there. I don't know. Just saying, I don't get the sense that, like, okay, this is permanent. He is now the long time like safeties coach.
Well, if he can start producing 3 all-conference safeties a season, I'm all on board.
Well, he's only coaching 2 of them.
Okay, well, we didn't have the clarification last time, so I didn't.
Yeah, he talked about it. So Fuqua is coaching the middle safety, and then he is coaching the 2 outside safeties. Court Braswell is doing all 3 linebackers now. He was only doing 2 linebackers before. Now he's doing all 3. Walt at defensive line and Carey at corners. So that kind of is the breakdown of where the defense is at now.
There you go. Well, I think it's gonna be fun. I think that as he gets more comfortable with these guys, I think you'll see, and as spring moves on and you start to get pads and things like that, I think you'll see the aggression day by day turn up a notch, and I look forward to seeing how that goes. Just that was pretty much my main takeaways there. Just he seems to, like I said, just still getting himself acclimated, and as is everybody at this point.
Yeah, I think, he talked a lot about like meeting with the coaching staff a lot and getting to
Mhm.
know those guys and getting a feel for them, which obviously is going to be necessary for somebody coming in that doesn't really have like a past of working with everybody.
Super important.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, he's the one that's kind of on an island. Like one of the main things that was interesting was talking about the language of the defense, and everybody else is already like he's the one that's coming in speaking a different language. So you got to kind of ease into that. You can't just all of a sudden, like, okay, now we speak Spanish and nobody else knows Spanish. That's
Right.
difficult. And you're fluent in Spanish and you just start, and they're like, you might know what that guy just said.
Um, then we had Joe Royer, and I feel like I've heard a lot of what he said through the different conversations that he's had between the different pressers and what have you. I don't know that I necessarily got anything new there, except when he was talking about. I didn't know he had lost his mom, and he talked about some of his injury history and some of the things that actually brought him back to Cincinnati outside of just being a hometown kid. He just dived a little deeper into that story. So kind of tugging on some heartstrings as somebody who's lost a parent. I felt that a little bit. But he also talked about battling through the injuries that he's had to battle through, and just what it's like to be healthy, what the tight end room is like right now, and how right now they're pretty much all rooting each other on. He appreciated the fact that he's been welcomed with open arms, and um, just everybody right now is kind of on the same page in that
Yeah.
room, and that's good
Yeah.
to hear. It's just kind of speaking to the culture that Coach Sat has brought in. He did speak about his relationship with Coach Sat as well. So
Yeah. Always good to get a local kid home. And, one of these days it's going to settle in that, like, you don't have to leave and come back. You can just stay. Like, you can just stay. You don't have to go somewhere else and then be like, damn, I missed it.
right, and then lastly we had safety Logan Wilson, who talked about the defense. Most interesting note I found was the fact that he had been in this defense before from North
At
Texas.
North Texas, yeah.
And I think that's a huge feather in his cap. I think that he's super charismatic. That was the first
I
time
love
that was the first time we got to hear him talk. Nothing but smiles.
Oh, he
Uh,
came like when he came over to like before we interviewed him, he came over and was like dapping us up and like he was ready to go. He was like he was his energy is contagious.
Maybe it's the haircut, like not the haircut, but the braids and what have you. There's a little Kobe Bryant to him, I guess. Just in
Okay.
just in the hair and just the way that he presents himself. Like I said, super charismatic, just smiling the whole time, just kind of fun. I thought that was what I got, was just there's a little Kobe Bryant to him. I'm not saying spitting image or anything like that, but just
Okay.
I got that.
Um I love hey, did you think Monday was what it's like in Cincinnati in the spring? I was hoping. This is cold. Today's cold. I mean, today was without the reference of Monday, today was a pretty nice spring day
Right, the
in
60s
Cincinnati.
is 60s is not bad.
It was in the 50s and a little chilly, like after the rain had moved through here. So it was a little chilly. The wind was blowing. Like it wasn't anywhere close to, but I was in a pull like a quarter zip and jeans. And I was fine. It was a little chilly, but
Right.
um yeah, he was like, yeah, man, I was hoping it was clearly the South in him was shining through. The interesting thing for me, like he started in the Big 12 at
Yeah, Kansas
K-State.
State. Right.
So he was like, I wanted back in the Big 12. Again, remember when people told me I was crazy for talking about kids, just nobody grew up wanting to play in the American. The
I
American
don't think
didn't
anyone
exist when these kids were
I don't think
growing
anyone
up.
called you crazy for that.
Well, but no, people didn't think it was like a real factor. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to be able to win recruiting battles. No, like kids grow up wanting to play in the league that they grew up watching.
On NCAA 14, conference prestige is a thing that is part of your recruiting battles. I mean, they knew it all the way back then. Of course, yes, that's still a thing.
Well, people just want to be contrarians and tell me I'm wrong, even when they know I'm right. I get that all the time. What's up, Aaron?
I've made a career of it.
Pretty good practice today. Anything? I think the biggest thing that I guess I should have picked up on it Monday, but everything is coming at you so fast that you're like, you only have the capacity to jot down so many notes. I was pretty sure Jared Bartlett was coming here to be an edge rusher. I think he's going to play middle linebacker.
That's what I read that. I didn't know how much you wanted to go into the notes that you had on the.
I won't get into all of them, but like that's one of the things that you get out of my daily practice notes is he has been with the linebackers and he's listed on the roster as a linebacker. And generally then, so that makes me think they're going to use that middle linebacker as a blitzer. Like a lot of people like to use, especially in a three linebacker, in a three defensive line setup, they like to bring linebackers off the edge. I'm thinking you might see a lot of blitzing right up the gut because Bartlett, I know, is a guy that they want on the field. Him being on the field with middle linebacker would be very interesting. And then in relation to that, I think one of the reasons they feel really comfortable doing that is it's Micah Coleman looks different. Like we talk about how they need to like look different like the other teams in this league do. Micah Coleman is one of those guys. He is every bit of 6'4", every bit of 265. Like, standing there, his helmet is like this much above most of the other guys in that defensive line room. Long arms, big shoulders, like, okay, yeah, that's what they're supposed to look like. So, the other one...
We even heard Dante talk about Micah Coleman when Dante talked the other day. And he was saying that he expected big things out of him in just the quick time that he's gotten to know him. So I think that's an interesting bit on Micah Coleman as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely looking at him as an impact guy on the edge. And you would think they have a lot of trust in that if they're looking at Bartlett, because you would think with his profile, Bartlett was going to come in as a guy that would blitz off the edge. Maybe they just like that profile of bringing him straight at you and trying to get some of that pass rush. The other thing about that is, Aaron, if you're coming right up the middle, you're coming right off of Dante Corleone, which he takes a lot of attention. So there's probably going to be space to get to the quarterback up the middle that they weren't able to utilize last year. So those are a couple notes that you can find more on the board. The play that they highlighted on Go Bearcats, the deep post from Sorsby to Royer was damn near perfect. I mean, it was damn near perfect. Just an absolute dime of a ball right down the middle of the field, split the defense, Royer running right under it. I mean, the thing with Sorsby is he throws it easy. Like Dan Horton and I were talking about this. It's like there's not it's more like 50 yards.
What a flick at a wrist.
That's what it looks like coming out of his hands. I mean, it is pretty coming out of his hands.
Good. Keep one of those a day, two of those a day coming. I'm totally good with that.
Yeah. Safety is fascinating to me. I think you're starting to get a feel for the guys they like. They like Logan Wilson. They like Derek Canteen. They like Mekhi Miller. Trying to think. Minkins had a nice play today that I had in the notes, I think. But some of these young defensive backs are catching my eye already. Jaquan Sanks looks like he was manufactured in the football factory. His thighs are like it reminded me of when Wiggins kind of got. Remember, Wiggins was benching like that or squatting like 700 pounds.
Which that's absurd for a defensive back, but
he was 5'10, like 5'11, like 205, and benching squatting 700 pounds. But that's kind of what Sank's lower body looks like is the type of strength that Wiggins had. Gravy has made a couple plays. Jaden Davis had an awesome day with 2 picks. So the youth movement, and it's interesting because there's a lot of transfers that they brought in to play in the secondary. But don't sleep on how much talent they've brought in that next wave that's coming behind them, because those kids look really, really good.
Good deal.
And then Tony Johnson, 2 days in a row now, has been impressive. Not the biggest dude in the world, 5'10", 185, but he's running clean routes and he's catching the ball. And it would have been so helpful for this offense to have a number 2 receiver that could produce. And last year they just didn't. D. Wiggins just didn't produce.
That was certainly a struggle for both quarterback play and for the wide receiver room in general, was the fact that there was not anybody making any type of noise whatsoever from that 2 spot.
I mean, they got, Xavier Henderson looks really good. They got production from him last year. Braden Smith was up and down. He was inconsistent, but he still had his days. And I think, with Barry Jackson and the guys that they've got in the slot, they're going to be perfectly fine in the slot. Tyron Smith has caught my eyes a couple times. He's a little one, 5'7". Looks more like a scat back than he does a slot receiver, but getting that number 2 guy right. And then when you get Evan back, obviously he had the shoulder injury last year that kept him from playing quarterback. He didn't get it taken care of and played wide receiver, then had the chance to get it taken care of this offseason. But once you get, Evan back in there with Tony Johnson, I think, that can go from a weakness to a strength.
That's a good thing for this team to have guys battling for that 2 spot, as opposed to trying to put together anything with the wide receiver room last year was kind of the island of misfit toys, right? So
yeah. And then, if I had to guess right now, Ormani Arnold, the transfer from Idaho, I think he's kind of running, Kalen Carroll's out. Arnold is kind of running that second corner slot opposite Jordan Young.
Okay.
So that's kind of where their early returns are in the defensive secondary.
A lot of ball to be played.
It's like with Chris Lepore, you got to get your pen and paper out and start taking notes, figuring out who the heck all these guys are.
Like I said, a lot of ball to be played there. So
I was pop quizzing myself and I passed quite a few of them, like just seeing a guy and being like, oh, that's da-da-da-da-da. Oh, that's da-da-da-da-da. I felt pretty good about myself today for about a 5-minute stretch. And then the rest of the time I was clueless again. But I had a good 5-minute stretch of naming guys as they were like, the easiest way to do it, especially in like the skill positions, is one-on-ones, because you get 2 of them at a time and you can just like pop quiz yourself. Oh, that's so-and-so against so-and-so.
Well, you just gotta hope that nobody changes their number or makes any significant. I'm gonna start wearing an arm sleeve now, or I'm gonna start wearing a visor now, or things that where all of a sudden they got a new accessory, and you're like,
honestly, it's just the number for me. I just dial in on the number. I can't get caught up in the
Well,
accessories or a
it's-
haircut.
It's also cold right now, so no one's rolling their jersey and tucking it up under their pads
man,
to where you can only make out the top third of a number.
When Brian Cook, because he like his dreads used to hang
he was
past
Predator.
his number.
Yeah.
And then he got it cut, and I could see his number, and I had never seen his number before. I just identified him by the dreads, and it took me like 2 practices to be like, oh yeah, that's Cookie.
Yep.
So it's this job is hard, Aaron. There's a lot of challenges. And then they go on spring break, and then they come back from spring break, and a bunch of dudes change their number because whether they decide whether or not they like their assigned number, and then they go get a new one.
That'll be super fun.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. We will see you. Remember, tomorrow night, BCJ pod. Dave and I will have you covered live tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So we'll see everybody there. That is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.